Yesterday, Starmer dismissed claims by the government that his plan to seek a new returns deal would make Britain a dumping ground for tens of thousands of migrants from the EU. He called it nonsense. He said any agreement sought by a Labour government will be bespoke and pointed out that Rishi Sunak had also wanted an EU returns deal. Starmer accepted that a deal, though, with the EU may require some form of quid pro quo involving quotas of migrants from the EU, but it would not be the same scheme as member states. Are the criticisms of Starmer's plan justified? Let's talk about this with Mike Buckley, the journalist and broadcaster. How you doing, Mike?
Very well, thanks. How are you?
Good as gold at this end. This is kind of all over the place, really, isn't it, this? I mean, I understand, you know, that they're all vying for centre stage when it comes to I can solve it, I can solve it. But I'm not absolutely convinced that Starmer's point that this is any better than the Conservative situation is particularly valid at the moment. And if EU diplomats are looking at this and saying this ain't going to happen, where does this leave Keir Starmer?
I mean, it's staggeringly better than what we've got at the moment. What we've got at the moment is a government that's saying they want to stop the boats while doing nothing constructive to stop the boats. They're saying they want they're not even saying they want the asylum system to work. They're saying the asylum system is in chaos while continuing acting to make it in more chaos. I mean, as we've discussed before, we've got about 180,000 people backed up waiting to have their claims heard. I mean, that is staggering failure that's costing all of us.
It is, but there's nothing in Keir Starmer's plans that's going to make that better.
Yeah, there is. He's going to recruit. If you read his plan,
nothing there at all.
He's going to recruit 1,000 caseworkers.
Yeah.
They're going to process those claims, move those people off barges, out of hotels, out of army barracks.
And that's what the government are trying to do themselves.
They get somewhere to live, they get a job like anybody else. If they're rejected, they're also going to put time and effort into making sure we have a returns agreement with the EU and also make sure we return people to their
But they're already, the government are trying to recruit already. So the government are trying to do exactly that and are not able to recruit at the right rate of knots. So they're trying to do what Keir Starmer says he's going to try and do.
I mean, I'm not saying they're going to be able to do it overnight. I mean, maybe they won't be able to do it.
Well, that's the problem the government are having right now, isn't it? I mean, of all the things you could say about Rishi Sunak or Suella Braverman, the idea that they don't want to solve this would be rubbish, right? We all know they want to.
Not at all. No, Suella Braverman and Sunak, they've deliberately manufactured this into a crisis. You know, we used to process...
Why would they want that? It's going to lose them an election, Mike.
But I think they've got themselves into a hole. I think they went into this year thinking, yeah, if we make migration the new division issue, the way that Brexit used to be, that'll play well for us. So they've manufactured this.
But it doesn't play well for them because everyone thinks they...
No, I know it doesn't work well for them. It's completely blackfired.
So they haven't manufactured it, have they? It's just they're just unable to solve it.
No, they have manufactured it by refusing to process claims. If they could have run an effective asylum system. It's been running down under Theresa May, under Priti Patel, and particularly under Braverman, who has decided that being performatively evil and cruel towards some of the most vulnerable people in the world is a sound tactic. Yes. It doesn't work in the sense she's manufactured a crisis that she cannot solve. And all of us, whatever we think about asylum, we're thinking, will you please just make this system work? This is a failure of governance. It also doesn't work because the British people are not as cruel and nasty as she thinks they are.
Well, it's not. I don't know if it's. I don't know where some of the most vulnerable people in the world comes from. I don't know where you got that from. Right? They're just almost...
These are people that have come from war zones. They've come from famine.
Yeah. It's not really. If you've ever been to Calais, as I have, or been down there to see the boats come in, I don't think that's replicated in that. Generally speaking, there will, of course will be some people. In terms of what Starmer is trying to do, let's get on to that though, Mike, because I mean I get it. Obviously, he says he wants to solve it as well. The EU are saying, well, we're not absolutely sure about that. But whatever he comes up with, unless he can process people at not just a slightly faster pace, we are talking an incredible, fifth gear type pace. Unless he can do that, we're just going to see more migrants because his scheme, by his own admission, will mean that there are more migrants come at least to begin with, unless he can sort the backlog. So we're going to see more, and the waiting list will get bigger.
I mean, he's proposed a returns agreement with the EU. So what he's proposed is that we will work with the 27 countries of the EU to take a fair quota. So, 1/28th, and then others will be returned. So that will have a material impact. Yes, we will still take some, but we're taking some anyway. But we will finally have some control over who comes and over how many come and over how many stay.
Well, but it won't necessarily stop the boats, of course, because some people will still come via that route.
It won't necessarily stop them.
But it will. I mean, there's a suggestion it will increase by 100,000 people a year, which is a percentage.
There is no way to stop the boats. And if you look at the news we've had this summer, I mean, partly to do with the climate crisis, to do with wildfires, to do with droughts, to do with famine. But if you just look at the disasters we've had even this week in Morocco and Libya, neither have anything to do with the climate crisis, I realise. But the climate crisis alone is going to exponentially increase people fleeing their country because the water's gone or the food's gone or there's a war happening over...
Who told you that, Mike? Who's got to you, mate? Come on, who's telling you this?
Mate, it's simply a fact. It is simply a fact. We, as Europe, we as the UK, are going to have to deal with the fact that
people are going to be frying in their own countries, so they're going to be coming to Europe.
Yeah, well, I mean, even in Europe, we had temperatures of 46 degrees this year.
Yeah.
I mean, this is unprecedented. This is off the charts.
Should have seen what it was like when I went to Italy 10 years ago. It was even hotter. Goodness me.
Think about what that is in really hot countries, in Africa or in particular.
Who haven't had a heat wave this year, interestingly.
What's that, sorry?
Who haven't had a heat wave this year, whereas Europe did.
No, but climate change doesn't work like that. It isn't uniform. You know,
right. It picks certain regions to look at and then stops at certain postcodes.
Honestly, you can make fun of it all you like, but it's...
I know, I'm not making fun of it. Listen, I'm not making fun of it at all. There is stuff to address. I'm just not sure whether the sort of death cult Armageddon projections are absolutely bang on. I think that's the bit that
we do know is that scientists have been saying what was going to happen to the natural world and what the impact would have on human civilization for a very long time now, making predictions.
Yes, I've seen those worst-case scenario predictions as well.
Well, those predictions have been borne out, but what worries me is that the predictions that they've been making say this might happen 20, 30, 50 years from now. Lots of that stuff's happening now.
So if we come back to the current situation, your suggestion is it's going to get even worse, so we need a better system in place, ultimately.
I'm not saying we can't deal with it, but we need to plan to deal with it. And just saying, oh, I wish they'd stop coming isn't going to work.
Yeah. OK. Mike, thank you. Always a pleasure. Mike Buckley, journalist and broadcaster with us here on talkTV. That went off in a few funny tangents, didn't it?